Welcome everybody to Government Relations 101 information session. We are so excited to be here with you today and to share with you this innovative new cohort-based offering that we are sharing with our community and using to help everybody that is involved anticipate, interpret, and mitigate political risk in Alberta. Now, I don't know if this is surprising to you, but I'm a lobbyist. Pocket Lobbyist was created a couple of years ago as a way to make sure that everybody has access to tools that they need to understand political risk. And I think that's the first part of today's session that I want to really emphasize is that lobbying is a completely legitimate and useful activity that a business owner or an organization owner must pay attention to properly manage their business. One of the problems that we see in lobbying is that we're not thinking about the problem right. So we are thinking of lobbying in traditional ways as old boys club or as a group of insiders. And we believe that there is separation between the work that those people are doing and the work that you're probably already doing. Now, there's a lot of controversy and discussion on where the word lobbying came from. Some people think that it started from President Grant, who used the term lobbyist to refer to individuals that would wait in the lobby of the Willard Hotel in DC to try and talk to him. Some people think that it was referring to the actions of members of parliament gathering outside hallways in the United Kingdom. But whatever you think of lobbying, it is probably not what lobbying actually is. It has a bad reputation because people think that it has to do with being inappropriately connected to politicians, that it has to do with having significant power and influence or manipulation and intimidation. There's massive amounts of money for little in return, or just being friends with whoever's in government with little regard for what's actually good for your organization or your own desires with government. And so it's not a surprise that you might think that lobbying is something that you might want to totally stay away from, only use externally, and really just think of as a necessary evil rather than an opportunity for your business. As well, it doesn't help that Hollywood has depicted lobbyists in not such a favorable way. You see a clip here from Thank You for Smoking, Nick Naylor describing what he does. Michael Jordan plays ball. Charles Manson kills people. I talk. And so it's not surprising that you think that lobbying is not something that you would want to associate with within your organization, but we hope that you will perhaps change your mind. As well, there's sometimes a negative annotation about lobbying from politicians as well. I'm sure many people recently saw an article in the National Post that essentially was telling you to fire your lobbyist. And this is something that we hear a lot from politicians, that we don't want to talk to lobbyists. We want to talk to government relations professionals from within an organization. You might be surprised to learn that lobbying is actually just the simple act of communicating with a public office holder, either directly or indirectly, for an attempt to influence. So a lot of people think that lobbying are all of these terrible behaviors that happen under the radar and behind the scenes, but lobbying is actually as simple as just talking to or communicating with a public office holder, which means that you are probably a lobbyist and don't even know it already. As you can see, lobbying is not just for big corporate interests. Lobbying is something that organizations all over the map do. You see student groups, healthcare groups, teachers, municipalities, and several different types of groups engaged in lobbying activity because it is simply communicating with public office holders in an attempt to influence. So anytime you speak with the government and hoping that they see your point of view or take your feedback into account when they're making policy, you are in fact lobbying. We also see that there are several different types of lobbyists that are existent. So this is data from Alberta. There are thousands of lobbyists in Alberta. So it's not contrary to public opinion and perception, a small group of people that are focused on very niche interests. There are tons of people that are registered as lobbyists and are engaging in that kind of communicating with public office holders activity. It is a regulated activity, which some of you may not know. So it's a perfectly legal activity that has certain reporting requirements and rules associated with it. But more than that, it requires a deep understanding of history, knowledge about political and government systems, insights about how to manage people and power dynamics, as well as significant strategic planning and development skills and execution skills. So lobbying, contrary to your perception, is not just an activity that people who know a lot of people within government engage in. It is a skill just like marketing or finance or accounting or any other skill that we widely recognize as important within our organizations. And it is something that you should consider within your organization as well. It is fundamentally about anticipating, interpreting, and managing political risk within your organization, which is the crux of running a successful and sustainable organization. Now, if we've convinced you that lobbying is not inherently bad and political risk is business risk, which means that you should probably care about it, what is your next move? Some of the solutions that people typically refer to in lobbying is hiring an employee that can handle this within their organization. So maybe you hire a vice president of government relations or a policy researcher or an intern or somebody within your organization that can help execute the functions of lobbying within your organization. That's a way that a lot of organizations deal with this risk. However, that solution doesn't take into account that political risk is business risk everywhere. So just making it one person's responsibility within your organization doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be adequately anticipating, interpreting, and mitigating political risk. Now, you could also hire a lobbyist, which we have nothing against. We're lobbyists as well, but oftentimes it is difficult for a lobbyist that you hire to understand your organization as well as you do. So we suggest that you join our GR 101 cohort, which begins on May 16th, 2024, so that you can have those skills built right into your organization. And so you can hire an employee or contract a lobbyist, but you'll have the basic skills that you require to understand political risk right within your organization, and you'll be able to manage that risk much better. The other part about lobbying, hiring government relations professionals, either as an employee or as a contractor, is that they're expensive because this is a very niche and high demand skill set. So while you might want to have a lobbyist involved in your organization, you might not have the budget for it. Lobbyists can start anywhere from $5,000 and go up to over $20,000 a month, depending on what you are asking them to help you with. So sometimes organizations don't always have the budget for lobbyists, either when they need it in the short term or to ensure that that risk management aspect is built into their organizations in the long term. And as well, harkening back to Pierre Poilievre's point in the National Post, nobody can know your organization possibly as well as you know your organization. So the criticism that Pierre Poilievre was putting forth is that CEOs aren't actually aware of the politics and nuances of what's happening. And so oftentimes they're disconnected from the risk and the implications of the lobbying that's happening, whether it's on behalf of their organization or within their organization. So there's a really strong argument to be made that no matter how senior you are, or no matter what aspect of the business you're responsible for, political risk is something that you need to understand if you're going to do your job well, especially if you work in a highly regulated industry or in an organization that depends deeply on government funding or policy work. As well, I see this all the time. If you hire somebody as a consultant to help you with your lobbying, it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all solution, and you can't just hire somebody and expect that all of your problems are going to be solved and go away. Managing consultants requires you to have a working knowledge of what's happening in politics so that you can be collaborative with your lobbyist and make sure that you're both working together to accomplish the needs that your business or organization has when it comes to dealing with the government. So if you hire a lobbyist, you still need to understand what's happening. And we encourage everybody who works with lobbyists to have a working knowledge of what you're asking them to do, what the expectations are, and why they might be doing things one way or another. It's also the truth that, part of what the criticisms of lobbyists is that we're creating a disconnected class from government. We're creating mediums of people who deal with government, and government isn't actually talking to the people who are impacted by these policies. So by creating this kind of knowledge and understanding within your organization, you can develop a better connection that is more authentic and collaborative with elected officials and their staff. And frankly, they want to hear from the people, not necessarily from the lobbyists. So that's another reason why it's important for you to have these skill sets, so that when you're in those situations, you can serve your organization in a way that is meaningful and effective. So that's why we encourage you to consider our GR 101 cohort, which is one of our newest offerings at Pocket Lobbyist that is aimed at really supporting you in understanding how to anticipate, interpret, and mitigate political risk, whether you hire people within your organization to accomplish those goals, whether you work with a lobbyist, or whether you're just a business owner or a CEO that needs to understand this to better evaluate risk within their organization. We created this because we want everybody to have access to the tools that are required. We fundamentally believe that the more political knowledge that is distributed within our society, the better our governments are and the better the public policy is. I think that it's so important to dispel myths about how government works and make sure that there's a working understanding of all of these important concepts with anybody, because fundamentally, all of the things that government does affect every single person in one way or another. And especially, as I've mentioned, organizations that are in highly regulated industries or are dealing with topics that are highly affected by government policy, which is essentially every single industry. We created GR 101 to suit any kind of organization. So whether you're a nonprofit, an association, a big or small corporation, anybody that is dealing with political risk, including municipalities or school boards, or any individual that just wants to learn how to best manage these issues, can join Government Relations 101. And it doesn't matter if you're one person within an organization or one of 10,000 people within an organization. These skills will be able to help you. As well, it doesn't matter if you're an intern or the CEO of an organization. This course is a professional development opportunity that is meant to suit the knowledge and working knowledge levels of any career level. We make sure that the content is engaging. We give you opportunities to practice your skills, as well as network with other like-minded individuals in this sector. So we hope that you'll consider looking at Government Relations 101, because we really believe that it will help you within your organization and make you more prepared to contribute to your organization. We are starting the spring 2024 cohort next week on May 16th, and it's every Thursday from 1:30 to 4:30 p.m. virtually. We cover diverse political topics, from political history to how to execute a strategy, and we do so in a way that's engaging with content that is available for you forever. We also want to make sure that you have templates and are empowered with the tools you need to download for your internal use. We want you to network. And as well, this course meets the hourly threshold for the Canada-Alberta Jobs Grant. So you're also able to apply for funding to perhaps get reimbursed for some of it. We also want to make sure that you understand what a return on investment GR 101 is. So whereas lobbyists can cost between $5,000 to over $20,000 per month, Government Relations 101 is just a fraction of that price. You're going to develop the professional development tools that you need to succeed as an individual within your organization and action things immediately within your organization that will help you in your career as well as with your organization. You're going to grow your network, and you're going to do this at a fraction of the cost of traditional lobbying in 1 month, and these skills will stay with you throughout your entire career. So we hope that you will consider joining our cohort, which starts next week. Spots are limited. It's a $2,500 investment plus tax, and is something that we believe is well worth the investment. Again, significantly less than what it would cost to hire a lobbyist, and you can take this knowledge with you for the rest of your career. We hope that you will consider taking a taking a chance on this product that we are so excited about. We have completed our first cohort and it was a great success, and we've made a lot of amazing changes to this cohort, and we're so excited to share all of the knowledge and skills that we have with all of the participants that are signed up for this cohort. And so we encourage you, in the words of Pierre Poilievre, to cancel your lunch meeting. Don't necessarily fire your lobbyist, but go to the people, go to Pocket Lobbyist to make sure that you have what you need to anticipate, interpret, and manage political risk. And please reach out to us and follow us on social media if you have any questions. We sincerely hope that you will join us in this next cohort. And thank you very much for joining us today.